Hello and welcome to 2018 and live at Epiphan. It's Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern. Dan and I are here for the first show of a new year with some cool stuff to talk about.
Can we call this season 2?
No, we got to finish a full year of episodes first, but we're not far away from that. So
That's true.
We're going to have something really cool to come up with for that.
Yes.
That turnover.
And what is this, episode 41, I think? Yes, episode 41.
I'm losing track. The holidays there threw everything off. I don't know what.
How were your holidays, by the way?
You know, they were okay. They were
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. You know, it's never enough time. Never enough
Of
time.
course. But you celebrated the new year well?
Yeah. New Year went well.
Well, that's great. Well,
Relaxed but good.
I gained a few pounds, but
Who
like everyone, trying to get a little bit of gym time in this month, and we'll be off to a good start for 2018.
Yeah, I never make those resolutions. There's no point. I know I can't keep them.
So thanks, everybody, for being here today. We actually have a pretty cool topic. We're going to talk about some video technology trends that we're looking for in 2018, and maybe a couple predictions also about how some of those trends might shape and how the technology might unfold in the coming year.
Some of these are really bold predictions.
Yes, a few of them George and I don't necessarily agree on, but we'll see how things go. Of course, this is a live show, so it's great to see all of you here in the live chat. Please chime in throughout the show. Engage with us. Give us your predictions. Tell us if you think we're wrong. We really like hearing what you guys think. So please do not be shy and jump over in chat and say hello.
Yeah. So it looks like we got quite a few people on YouTube watching us. A couple people on Facebook as well. So whichever one you're viewing us on, anything that comes up, pops into your head about predictions or what you might think 2018 is going to hold in the world of streaming technology, throw it in there. We'd love to discuss that with you.
A couple news items first.
Yeah.
Why don't you take the first one, George?
Sure. So coming up really fast, it's actually getting a little scary. Epiphan, both Dan and I believe, will be attending ISE in Europe, Integrated Systems Europe, which is a big convention, a pretty big one for Epiphan. And we will be there in our booth to chat with all of our customers and look at your needs and our products and where they might be able to fit together. It's also just a really cool show. There's so much stuff there.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've never been there before, so...
Yeah, it's also in Amsterdam, so it's kind of a cool place to go. Not the best time of year to go, but, it's still better than Ottawa in terms of weather. So, it's pretty good. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope any of our European viewers, if you're considering attending ISE and you want to check us out, we'll have lots of information, booth numbers, and so on coming out very shortly, because that's only like a month away.
Yeah, that's coming up quick, so looking forward to ISE. Another little note, we wanted to just give a mention here. Some of you may be familiar with the website videoguys.com. They sell all kinds of really cool video production gear and live streaming technology. They recently released their top 12 products for 2017, and lo and behold, there it is, the Webcaster X2. They had a lot of great things to say about it, and actually they have a couple videos about all of the products on this list, so if you're interested to check in with Video Guys and see what their top 12 products of 2017 were, it's an interesting blog post. You can find it right on their homepage, videoguys.com.
Yeah, definitely. So that's definitely one to read up on.
A couple other things we just want to quickly mention before we jump into our main topic. As you see, we always have the live background going on behind us. Today's background is from a YouTube channel called 4K Relaxation.
Today's background brought to you by...
Today's background is brought to you by... But if you are... You know what? There's a lot of really cool sort of relaxation videos on
or just
YouTube.
Like random streaming channels that just have like nothing other than... whatever.
Well, actually, speaking of interesting streaming channels, I just wanted to show you guys this live stream that I just found. Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, here it is. So this is a train engineer who live streams from the front of his train engine. There's over 700 people watching right now, so this seems to be a pretty popular stream. And I actually was doing a little digging around and found that this is kind of a common thing for people to put the camera on the front of the train. And I just thought it's interesting. It's kind of mesmerizing. It's neat seeing when they go into tunnels, and sometimes they'll pull up to the station and people are getting on. It's just a cool way to sort of see a lot of different countryside landscapes around the world.
Well, we were noticing they run this for a long period of time too. So
Yeah, this stream has been live since December 17th, I think. So that's pretty impressive in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't know what equipment they're using. If anyone's affiliated with that, we'd love to find out what they're using because, as someone just mentioned, they have good cell service. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
we were talking about that.
That was my comment. Like, what connection do they have on a train in the middle of nowhere that they're getting this level of
maybe
quality, so.
the train system has a special bonded network of some kind. Who knows, right?
Yeah, they must.
What else? Anything else we want to touch on before we start the show?
No, I think that probably does it. So let's dive in. This is a pretty juicy topic.
Yes. So we have several categories of topics that we're going to run through, and we have a little timer here because we want to keep everything short and sweet and fire through rapidly. But please, we'll probably stop about midway through, and we'd love to hear your comments. So make sure to put your predictions into chat, and we'll read them out live as well.
Yeah.
So without any further ado,
start this.
why don't you start the timer?
Oh, you pushing the wrong thing.
You set the timer wrong. Long press. Okay, we have 90 seconds to talk about our first.
Oh, you see, it's not that easy.
Okay, long press. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, we have 90 seconds to talk about this. Our first topic is video encoding. So, video encoding predictions for 2018.
I think H.265 might finally start to really gain some ground in 2018. There's a lot of things that are going to have to work together with that, but I think we're getting to the point where we have reached the limits of what the existing codecs can do, and we need something fresh, something new. And it's been lagging behind a little bit, not a lot of adoption, but I think 2018 might see that. As hardware catches up.
I think it's going to be a big year for video encoding. There's more video being encoded than ever before and growing at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
So H.265 is going to be big for that. I think one of the ways that H.265 is going to be important is that it's going to allow more cloud streaming services like for higher resolution and higher frame rates, things like VR, where you need the expanded resolutions and the high frame rate at the same time. H.265 is going to help with that.
Yeah, and realistically, in a lot of places, I know certainly for us, the bandwidth isn't increasing at a dramatic rate, but people's expectations from live streaming are. Other George is asking 15-second primer on H.265.
H.265 is supposed to half the data of H.264.
No more time.
So we got to move on. So half the data, same quality as H.264 is what it's supposed to be. We'll see if it delivers that. Okay, next. What is this? Cloud production.
Cloud production.
So I think we're going to start to see a growing trend towards cloud-based video production, and that could be in a number of areas, whether it's in pre-production, production, and post-production. So we started to see some tools coming out in 2016, and I think those are going to continue to expand, and we'll see more of them in the coming year.
Yeah, and I think this is generally following the trend in the past few years of general cloud usage for everything anyways. More and more things are moving to the cloud, especially as computers move more and more lightweight. Believe it or not, you can do less and less on them, as powerful as they might be. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, definitely a lot of things moving into the cloud. What are some good examples? I guess we've talked about it on previous shows.
Well,
with encoding and switching.
Encoding. So like Lightstream, for instance, the browser-based streaming software. We've seen services like Restream.io, which can help you to push your stream to multiple destinations. And then actually here at Epiphan,
we do have our own.
We do have
recording.
AV Studio, which is our brand new cloud-based production system. And what this is going to allow you to do is to set up cameras in multiple locations, be streaming and recording them, and be able to very quickly produce large amounts of video.
All right.
Okay, we got to keep it moving. All right. So what is this? Machine learning. So what is machine learning? How can that possibly relate to video?
Well, I would tie this together with AI, and I think this isn't necessarily video exactly, but the things surrounding it from my interpretation of what I think. So everyone, I'm sure, is hearing about AI. I think especially for live streaming, we're going to see more and more machine learning and AI in helping with that, whether it's automated moderation and chat bots and stuff like that, into if you're doing a live stream in public and blurring people's faces automatically, but face tracking the people you have authorization to use. I think that sort of thing will start coming out.
Yeah.
And definitely, I mean, the very basics. There's no question that chatbots and moderation will get better and better. They already exist. They're going to get better, more powerful, and that'll spread out into other aspects, I think.
I think it'll also be interesting to see how, we saw a trend of video analytics growing in 2016.
Yeah.
I think, in 2017. I think as we go into 2018, we're going to see video analytics based on the content of the video rather than just who's viewing it. So we might see things like being able to track human movement, being able to track patterns of people, vehicles, whether it's driverless cars, whether it's things like security. There's also the grocery stores that Amazon is working on, being able to shop without having to go through a checkout. The video just tracks what you take off the shelf and then charges you for it automatically.
Well, funny enough, that plays into our next one, engagement tools. I mean, that's a pretty obvious one. I think engagement tools are going to expand rapidly.
And I think that's because marketers are looking for ways to gather data, right? They're always looking for new ways to gather data, and engagement provides data, right?
Well, I think the 2017 saw a pretty dramatic change, and I think we're going to see this continue in 2018 in terms of how advertising works. A lot of people who are used to YouTube probably heard the term adpocalypse a lot in 2017. I think we're going to see that continue, but that opens a space for new engagement tools and new methods for marketing to reach not just the content creators, but the end audience and how that works. So I think there's going to be some interesting things coming there. Don't know exactly what yet, but I think there's a lot of space there.
I'm excited about the interactivity because being able, I know with my smart television, I've seen ways that you can see a Twitter feed live on your screen during a live broadcast and sort of engage. It's nice to create a conversation around the content, and engagement allows for that, and there's going to be tools. And actually next week, we're going to have a very interesting guest on the show talking about a really cool engagement tool. So tune in next week if that's interesting to you.
All right. What was our next one here?
Our next topic is technology adoption. Okay, so technology adoption. So there's a lot of technologies that have sort of been brewing for the last couple years, but
let's rattle off a couple.
Okay, 360 video.
This one, I'm not.
I think if it was going to fly, it would have done that by now, right?
Yeah, I think it's the consumption of it's too difficult, so people just kind of don't care. But VR, I think, is going to continue to grow in 2018. I don't know how much of that will relate to live streaming, but maybe, and certainly not in 2018. I think maybe that's more of another.
I'd love to attend a sporting event live in VR.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool, or a concert or something.
A couple of years out from that, so I don't think that's a 2018 one, but that's coming. But HDR and 4K, I think, are certainly bigger ones.
Well, HDR and 4K have been around for a while, but I think, especially considering we just had Black Friday recently and the holidays, a lot of people now actually own 4K televisions where maybe they didn't before. So they're going to be wanting 4K content, and 4K is in many ways going to become pretty standardized by the end of this year.
Clock's running out on this one, but I would say hand in hand 4K streaming really needs to go with H.265. They need each other.
That's a good point. Okay, next, what do we got? Cameras. Okay, I love cameras. So
who doesn't?
So you had an interesting prediction. Tell me your prediction.
My bold prediction, and please don't hold me to this one, but my big bold prediction in terms of how it relates to video is the death of the DSLR, specifically mirrored cameras.
Right.
And we run into this a lot. Mirrored cameras, the traditional SLR, DSLRs, they are not good for live video. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. They just don't keep up, whether it's because they're not designed with the proper outputs or the mirror lifts after a timeout. They're just not good for it.
They're also bigger and heavier, which in many cases is not what someone who's looking for a compact camera wants.
But we're seeing a new crop of mirrorless cameras.
Yes.
Especially from Panasonic that are killing it. And, they're becoming true do-it-all devices for both still photography, where some of those mirrorless devices weren't quite on par previously.
Yep.
I think they really are now, and they do video better, and they're smaller, lighter, and so on. So, and then you had a big one too.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to briefly show this camera. I think, first of all, I think we're going to see a nice mirrorless camera from Canon at some point this year to compete with the GH5s and the A7Ss of the world. But I'm pretty interested. This camera just came out, I think, in November. This is the Panasonic EVA1, 4K 60p. It's got HDMI outputs at 4K 60p, which would be great for live streaming.
And it's cheaper than the Sony.
And the footage from it looks absolutely amazing. I'll show you 1 second of it right now before we have to go to the next topic. So the EVA1, check out that camera.
And it's relatively inexpensive in its class.
Oh, for the cost, I mean, it's less expensive than an FS7, put it that way, and I think you're getting many of the same features and functionality.
Yeah. All right.
What do we have now?
Content delivery.
Content delivery. So we have lots of stories from 2017 related to YouTube, Twitch, Netflix, Amazon Prime, the majors.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen with the major content delivery networks?
I think that, as we kind of touched on a little bit before, I think that the ability for smaller content producers to make money on YouTube is going to continue to diminish in 2018, which means they're going to start looking for newer platforms. Where that is, I'm not even sure I could predict that, but I think that we're going to see more things, more live things. I think that we might start seeing more live content from places like Netflix and Amazon, because they don't really do that now, but they could, and it's an area they could break into. Twitch is growing in popularity, especially outside the gaming community. They're growing rapidly there. They need a lot of work to do on their UI, but the platform is growing, and technology in the back end still needs some work too. So we might see it there. We might see it somewhere else. Maybe Microsoft will make an effort on Mixer. That's going to be a tough one.
Okay, we're out of time for content delivery networks.
Right.
I had some points there. Maybe we'll come to them at the end of the show.
Sure.
What do we have here? Internet and data. So obviously video uses a lot of data. Data storage of data for video streaming services is one of the major costs and one of the major things that sort of holds back many of the higher resolutions and frame rates and features that we have in our cameras. We're not able to translate that necessarily over the data networks.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a thing still?
I don't think that 2018 is going to double the speed of your home internet connection, your traditional cable or DSL line. But we already are seeing it with 5G coming online in a lot of places. 5G is capable of pretty significant speeds compared to 4G LTE. And the latency,
you were saying like up to a gigabit, possibly.
in some instances, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And certainly within high density metropolitan areas with lots of towers, certainly in the hundreds of megabit easily. So that can really elevate what the mobile streaming you could do, the quality you can do. And so I think even here in Ottawa, which I'll warn you guys, normally we don't get anything good. Even here in Ottawa downtown, there is a certain region that has a 5G setup, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. So I think that's going to help a lot with mobile home connections. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I think with expanded mobile networks, 5G coming online, I think it's going to be a great year in 2018 to do mobile live streaming.
For sure.
So higher quality mobile live streaming over networks, that's going to be huge.
And that's becoming more popular anyways.
Speaking of major events and live streams, 2018 is going to be a great year for major live events worldwide.
Yeah, there's some big ones.
So we've got, for example, the Seoul Olympics.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Or not Seoul, it's South Korea, but what's Pyeongchang?
Yeah.
Pyeongchang, so that's going to be big.
You got World Cup.
Okay.
That's a big one.
We've got the royal wedding. I'm sure that'll be live streamed.
I mean,
a lot of people do care.
I'm not one of them.
Have you watched The Crown on Netflix? It's a good show.
Well, okay,
check it out.
but I don't
Maybe
see
you'll
it
change your
anyway.
mind. But yeah, certainly there's going to be a lot of things. There's big things happening this year with SpaceX and NASA.
There's some cool stuff.
We're sending a drill up to Mars.
Yeah.
So there's going to be live streams of all these major events, whether sports, concerts, and it's going to be a great year to watch live content online.
I'm really curious about the Olympics because sometimes that gets screwed up, depending on who gets the distribution rights and contracts. NBC sometimes screws things up really bad in terms of their live stream. So I'm really interested to see how this one goes.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the U.S., there's going to be all kinds of people trying to get distribution rights for different countries. So that one could be interesting, could be good, could be bad.
And with that, we have completed our topics.
We do have some
I'll stop the
comments,
timer.
though. We do have some comments, though, that I'm going to take a look at.
Sure.
One person from Facebook, Christian, was asking, what do we think about Vimeo Live? And I think that was probably one of the points you wanted to mention in content delivery.
Yeah, so first of all, if you're interested in Vimeo Live, we did do a show about a month ago, I think, about Video Live, where we give a full setup and tour of the platform. So check for that in our videos if you want to actually get the full tour. The thing I like about Vimeo Live is it allows some sort of content gating options, things like email capture, things like password protected walled content that some of the other platforms don't offer.
Yeah.
I think the UI still is in its infancy.
But they've done some changes already recently.
I think it's going to get a lot better this year. They launched it in 2017. 2018 is the year where Vimeo Live actually starts to take off.
Yeah, I think so. They seem to be at least they're putting a marketing effort into that platform, unlike Microsoft's Mixer.
Also, Vimeo now has HDR, which is pretty cool.
And so does YouTube, right?
YouTube does as well. Yeah.
So we mentioned that earlier in one of our others with technologies. HDR, I think, is something that, you need the platform before people can consume it, and we're starting to see that on some select platforms. So, some people are just commenting. There's a good list. Maybe we can go back to George's questions about 15 seconds on H.265. It's just all about efficiency. Being able to do a similar high-quality image at an overall lower bit rate to minimize your bandwidth requirements because H.265 compresses things better. It's a more efficient compressor. The downside is it's also massively demanding on the hardware to encode it.
And decode it also. Isn't one of the holdups with H.265 that a lot of people's devices and older computers won't be able to actually play it?
Now, again, most platforms like YouTube or whatever will transcode anyways, which adds latency, but, it'll at least do it. Even 3 years ago when we started talking about H.265 with a lot of people, it was, you're never going to do it without a dedicated hardware encoder chip. Now we're not there. We've got past that now. You can do it on a CPU, on a regular off-the-shelf Intel CPU, but it's still a struggle. It's a heavy load on the CPU. So, that's a big one.
But with AMD starting to come back onto the scene in the sort of enthusiast to high-end processor market, we're starting to see some competition, and Intel and AMD are both releasing large multi-core
buggy processors.
So, like we said before, it's going to be a great year for video encoding.
I didn't throw it in there because I really don't think it will happen. I think it's probably not a 2018, but a 2019 where we will see a GPU, a graphics card that has a significant H.265 hardware encoder built into it. So it might not be a 2018 thing, but it's definitely coming very soon. And once that's there, you'll be able to just hammer out H.265 content.
Now, someone here is asking about NDI. Is that something we want to briefly mention?
Products,
We've mentioned it briefly before.
Yeah, it came up in the frequently asked questions episode we did. As Epiphan, we've looked at it, we've considered it. It is on our list of things we would like to explore. We don't have a specific plan or date surrounding it. As NDI within the market as a whole is part of the question there. That's a good question. There's some other technologies that are coming out that are not the same, but they kind of could replace it in some ways. I don't know. We'll see. That's a tough one. It really depends on how many more cameras come online that use native NDI.
Is it a bit of chicken and egg scenario as well?
I think so, because it's pretty easy to build into a product, right? But if nobody's using a camera that supports it, what's the value? So that's why it's a bit tough. It's what do you really need from it? In your case in particular, if you have a specific use case in mind where you need NDI, send us an email, just live@epiphan.com. We'd love to hear about it, because when we hear these things, it helps us make decisions for where to work on certain projects and how important they might be. We often get requests for different things, as everybody does, but there's never specifics. And without specifics, it's honestly meaningless. It's we need to understand why people need it or want it in order to justify it. So.
World in Frame is also asking about peer-to-peer live streaming. Do you see that happening? It's kind of like a window to the world. Is that the idea? Like, aren't we just talking about Skype? What is peer-to-peer live streaming?
I don't know. That one's a tough one because I'm not sure. I think everyone's trying to reach a large audience. So I don't know. That one's a tough one. I don't know that we're going to grow that a lot. PTZ Optics, hello. They're mentioning that they will have NDI built in to some of their newer models and updates. That's cool. That's a great example of hardware that we would want to work with our products like Pearl, because Pearl matches up with PTZ style cameras, in a lot of workflows. So that's exactly the kind of camera that makes an argument for why Pearl might need NDI. So that's cool to hear. Great for sharing that.
Matthew Gowan was asking about widespread 5G to enable mobile consumption of H.265 content.
You're going to need the speed.
Yeah.
It's big.
But H.265, if we're half the data of H.264, doesn't that mean that theoretically you could?
That's where the chicken egg comes in, right? Is that as soon as you get H.265, right, then people go, well, now I can easily do 4K content, and so you leap over it. So any gain you might have had to say, let's say you normally did 1080p at 5 meg, most people can consume that pretty easily. But all of a sudden, you get H.265, and you're like, well, I can cut that down to, whatever, a little bit less. But then I could do 4K at 10 meg, and it's not, unreasonable. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a little of both, I think. We'll see.
Saul is asking, is Pearl hardware going to have an option for external hardware control surface? I think it already does, doesn't it?
It does in a way. So there's a company that we've worked a little bit with, and I will always screw up the pronunciation.
Skarhoy.
Yeah, or Skarhoff, or where I can't remember. They make controllers that you can load basically any API on. Pearl has its own API.
I've got it here, Lisa, if we want to show it.
So they did a specific test that we actually, you filmed a video, or George filmed a video with it.
If you look on our YouTube channel, you'll see an interview with
like a year ago almost,
with the CEO of Skarhoy, and he actually shows some controllers that work with Pearl.
So he had their controllers loaded with a Pearl HTTP-based API, controlling switching and everything like that through their hardware controller. It's actually really cool. It's an excellent box. So check that out.
And actually, we had an interesting sort of DIY project happening here in our office, which we might talk about in the future.
Not laying around here, is it?
No, it's on my desk. But
right.
We'll check back with us in the next couple episodes, because we might have some more to talk about in terms of
that one's kind of interesting.
Control.
It's kind of cool.
Anything else?
I think that's pretty much it for our questions. So
look at this.
We got our
George.
Guy from the back with our fancy tools.
So this, you might have seen this come together. What can you tell us about this?
So one of our guys here who works with me in the tech support department, some of you, if you've ever spoken to our tech support guys, may have talked to Adam at some point. Adam loves to build gadgety things and is very, very good at it. So he built this. He actually 3D printed this casing on his home 3D printer, but it is a button array that he then programmed with Pearl's HTTP API. And this has a Wi-Fi chip built into it to join your Wi-Fi network and control Pearl remotely with a button map.
Yeah, like you can turn it on here. It's got a battery in it, but the control buttons light up, and you can choose your layouts, start and stop your stream, everything you'd basically want to be able to do. We're probably going to be using this here on the desk for Live at Epiphan pretty soon.
Exactly. So we can just do our own switching from sitting here, just knowing what numbers. So this thing's pretty cool. It's not something that's for sale, but
this is a DIY project.
It is.
We're going to talk about it later on, maybe in a bit more detail.
And it might be something that, if we can write it up, it might be something that we would publish in our forums on a little DIY how-to thing in the future, because it is really cool and it does work really well. and it's so small. And
Yeah, it's
easy.
really cool.
And the battery is just micro USB to charge
Yeah.
it, just like an Android phone, so it's super easy.
But if you are looking for something that
Pro, super
is
pro.
super pro, super rugged and tested and stable, the Scarhoy controllers work quite nicely with them.
So I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2018. It should be an exciting year for all kinds of different stuff. And please keep checking back with us every Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern, here at the Epiphan studio. And Dan, sort of sneak peek for next week. You said it's going to be cool.
So next week we're actually going to have a guest on the show from a company called MkII, and they make a really cool platform for live engagement where basically you can run live polls and people can vote or share their opinion using whether it's Twitter or using their mobile phone, and live polling results on screen during a live stream.
So this plays into the content growth.
More overlays, more types of ways to engage with your content. So it should be interesting.
Yeah. So that's awesome. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
So long.